Joining me now is Amitabha Ghosh. He's a scientist who's worked on the NASA mission to Mars. Always great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Well, China recently marked the 30th anniversary of its manned space program. How far has it come in that time, especially knowing what is on the horizon and China's goals?
Well, I think they've come a very long way. I'm giving you an example. The Chang'e lunar rover missions. So they first landed a rover on the moon, then they went to the far side of the moon, then they survived the lunar night, which is very hard. It's very cold and it lasts 27 days. Then they brought samples, and in the next mission they brought samples back from the moon. So that was all this within probably a decade or a decade and a half. Then on the Mars front, see, Mars is incredibly difficult. So NASA is perhaps the only country which had the perfect record or near perfect record of landing spacecrafts on Mars. So China went in and they landed on the very first attempt. And then this rover is doing incredible work, I think. So just like Curiosity and Perseverance, they're doing different types of science on Mars. This rover is looking for something very interesting, which is the underneath the soil is there water. So we know that there was water in the Martian past, but so they have an interesting radar instrument which looks for possible water underneath the soil, and of course in the manned space frontier they have gone, and now right now, as you just mentioned, we're looking at the Shenzhou 14 transitioning, and then the Shenzhou 15 will be there, and so the crew will transition. So there is a space station being built, a modular space station. So this is all very exciting, and I guess the next steps are just like NASA is planning to get samples from Mars. I think the Chinese Space Agency also has the same goal, which is bring samples back from Mars, which is very important to settle the question of whether there is life on Mars. See, unless you get the samples back and you study them in Earth laboratories, it's very hard to make the decision. And the other thing I can think of that perhaps the priority is to send humans to the moon, which perhaps will require perhaps a more advanced launch vehicle, but that's kind of perhaps the plan for the end of the decade or perhaps the next decade.
Right. I mean, it sounds like so much has happened in actually just the last couple of years. You mentioned that Chang'e mission. That mission won an award, an international award 2 years ago. Now this Tianwen-1 Mars mission was recognized for the same award just last week. Talk to us about the significance of this recognition and what does it do on the world stage?
Well, I think very fundamentally, as a scientist, I can tell you that Mars is a very interesting undiscovered territory, and the Mars rover mission that they have is just like Curiosity and Perseverance have instruments to zap the rocks and measure their chemical composition. The Mars rover, the Chinese Mars rover, has the same kind of instrument. Then very advanced cameras, and they're doing very interesting science. I mean, trying to address some very fundamental questions. So I think it's great work, and it helps if many countries see. Mars is not a small place. The surface area of Mars is probably equal to the surface area of Earth, because most of the Earth is oceans. So it helps if different countries visit different locations on Mars. So I think the community of international scientists are very excited, and perhaps that's why the recognition that you mentioned.
Todd, I've got to ask you about a new development just within the last couple of hours. Breaking news, so
Okay.
hopefully you saw it. Your reaction to something that NASA just accomplished, the DART spacecraft successfully colliding with an asteroid's moon, I guess. Talk to us about, I mean, it was really
Yeah.
quite something to see. What do you make of it?
It's absolutely fascinating. See, more than this, it reminds you of science fiction, but it's more than science fiction. This is actually real. So, um, the Earth has been hit by asteroids from in prehistory. It's caused the dinosaur extinction. In 1908, there was an asteroid hit on Russia, which burnt 800 square kilometers of forest. Having said that, we have no technology. No matter how advanced we are as a country and as a world, we have no technology to stop these rocks. And the right approach is to not try to blow them apart as you have them as they did in Bruce Willis did in Armageddon, but actually to just deflect them. See, if you try blowing them apart, then the whole thing is going to explode and still keep coming at you. You need to just gently nudge it to change its course so it doesn't collide with Earth. This is exactly what this test was trying to do. So it at 15,000 miles an hour, it crashed into this asteroid, which is just 500 feet in size, and now it's going to try to measure whether it caused a slight change in velocity and direction. And if this kind of works, then you could try it for bigger bodies.